Hello everyone and welcome to So Says Shernoff. I'm Josh Shernoff and I have two very important things I'd like to say to you. First, happy Thanksgiving. And second, look, I know it's 2020, but what went so wrong in your life that you were spending your Thanksgiving watching me? Either way, I'm happy to have you here. Later on in the show, I will be joined by the legendary Dr. Tom Pritchard, who will be here to talk about his new show over at adfreeshows.com called X-Ray with Dr. Tom Pritchard. But first, today's episode marks our 2-year anniversary. No gifts are necessary. I'll just take cash. Yes, 2 years ago, I had my very first show. It was November 2018, back when the worst thing we had to talk about was Crown Jewel. Today, I have every week of WWE TV in Saudi Arabia if it meant having an audience. Somehow, a bunch of men with absolutely no interest in wrestling sitting front row on a sofa is more engaging than a bunch of screens sitting front row showing a bunch of men with interest in wrestling sitting on a sofa. The only thing that would change my mind is if we had to experience this again. Haunts me. Anyway, 2 years ago, I created a little show called So Says Shernoff Survivor Series Special. And thanks to Fight TV and all of you watching, 2 years and 25 episodes later, we're just getting started. So with that, let's jump into some headlines. Okay, where to begin? Well, remember how I was just talking about Thunderdome and the people you see on those screens? Well, there are some people you definitely won't see thanks to the Thunderdome's banned list. That's right, there is an actual list of people with photos that WWE will not allow to be on the Thunderdome wall. How do we know this? Well, someone leaked an image of the list. Who leaked it? The Famous Group. Who's the Famous Group? Other than a company that may have gotten a little ahead of themselves with their name, they are the company that created and runs the Thunderdome. Now, obviously, this was an accident as they put together a really neat behind-the-scenes look at how Thunderdome works, and of course, in that video is where we found this list. Now, a lot of fans have meticulously broken down these images, and aside from the more obvious Chris Benoit and KKK members, they've discovered that among the people and companies on the ban list are logos for AEW, Impact Wrestling, and New Japan, as well as names such as Enzo Amore, Kenny Omega, Jon Moxley, MJF, Tony Khan, Cody and Brandy Rhodes, Marty Scurll, the Young Bucks, CM Punk, Jim Cornette, Alberto Del Rio, Ryback, Superstar Billy Graham, Vicky Guerrero, and even the flags of Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Tibet. Well, Tibet, a lot of people wouldn't mind adding the Crown Jewel flag to that list as well, but I digress. Now, after reviewing this, I was left with a strong feeling. It took me a minute to identify the feeling because it's not one I often have, but it was the feeling of jealousy. That's right. I'm sorry, am I not important enough to warrant banning? Does my show not offend the WWE enough for them to add my logo or my face or my flag to their list? What do I need to do to upset WWE enough to add me to that list? Should I ask them to rate Meanie Tunes? That worked for Dave Meltzer. What do I need to do to get banned? I don't know, but I'd really like to find out. And in the meantime, I invite everyone to go to @SoSaysShernoff on Twitter, download this image, and get it on as many Thunderdome screens as you possibly can. I will not rest until this face is printed in black and white and taped on the wall of the Thunderdome production truck. And one more thing. Black and white? This is the company that created the Thunderdome, and they couldn't spring for some colored ink? You think kids hang black and white photos of their favorite wrestlers on their wall? You think Meltzer has a black and white image of Kenny Omega for target practice? No. That thing's color. Then mostly white. How a company that specializes in such high-end technology prints out a piece of paper that looks like it was printed on a dot matrix is unbelievable. Okay, you know what? Let's just move on. So, there are good ideas and there are bad ideas. Then there are ideas that may have looked like a good idea on paper, but bad in practice. Like these Outsiders shorts by Chalklime. They're oozing something, but it ain't machismo. Or is it? But then there are ideas that on paper are at best I wouldn't do that. And in practice, a, dear Lord, what in the actual f***? This is one of those ideas. A fan of AJ Styles decided to get a tattoo on his body to honor his hero. Now, this is not new. From everyone who got the Brahma Bull or Goldberg's tattoos to the dude with a Hulk Hogan tattoo on his back, people do some extreme stuff. The thing that makes this so messed up is that he copied AJ's tattoo exactly. And while the giant AJ on his right side might seem a little overboard, it's AJ's children's birthdays underneath the letters that make me go, nope. I mean, that is some messed up stuff right there, because there are really only three ways to look at this. He's either super obsessed with AJ Styles to such an unhealthy degree that he would want AJ's kids' birthdays on his own body, or he's super obsessed with AJ but so out to lunch that he didn't even know that's what the numbers were, which begs the question, what the hell did you think they were? A combination to AJ's heart? And then there's the third and relatively harmless option where this dude's name is AJ, and he happens to have the same number of kids born on the exact same dates as AJ Styles' kids. Hey, crazier things have happened. Like what actually happened. So Zelina Vega has made headlines after being released from WWE for not just ignoring WWE's decision to take away third-party social platforms from their talent, but by actually going out and creating additional accounts on a site called OnlyFans. This, in addition to her Twitch account, was enough for McMahon to deem this a, quote, breach of contract. The decision is not so much about the social accounts as it is about the income stream. But the real story started a few minutes after the release when Vega tweeted, "I support unionization." While the tweet alone is enough to raise eyebrows over in WWE, the real news came from a response to the tweet by Gabriela Carteris, best known for her role in Beverly Hills 90210. She is now the president of the Screen Actors Guild American Federation of Television and Radio, or SAG-AFTRA. She tweeted, "Hey Zelina _Vega WWE, editor's note, gonna need to change that handle." Or not. I'm looking at you at WWE Hornswoggle. Anyway, she writes, "Hey Zelina, thanks for standing strong for labor solidarity. I support you. Please email me at presidentcarteris@sagaftra.org. So now the talk of the Peach Pit is whether or not Andrea is going to get Dylan's son to join a union. Seriously though, if SAG-AFTRA decides to take this mission on, it could change the wrestling business forever. Now, it should be noted that a lot of wrestlers have been card-carrying members of SAG-AFTRA for years, and these wrestlers get to take advantage of the great health insurance and I'm sure many other perks. But what wrestlers like Zelina Vega are presumably looking for is a union to help negotiate these contracts that put all the favor on the side of the company. Will it work? Should it work? I don't know. There are a lot of pluses, but also some minuses to consider. Either way, it looks like things may start changing sooner than later. Hey, The Undertaker joined TikTok, so that's where we are as a people. Last thing here. I want to send a huge congratulations out to friend of the show and the last opponent I ever faced one-on-one inside the squared circle, Rich Swann. Rich was recently crowned Impact Wrestling World Champion. I am so proud of him and so happy for him. However, longtime fans of the show might remember a conversation Rich and I had about a year and a half ago. For those of you who haven't seen this, let's take a look now. Not a lot of people know this, but I like to tell anyone who will listen that my last match in the ring was against this young kid in his pretty much first singles match. Went by the name of Rich Swan.
Yeah.
And
Blue chipper.
yeah, and Rich, if you could just remind everybody of who won that match.
You know, my memory's a little foggy.
Allow me to remind you, I won that match. And I've been thinking, you know, I noticed that you're a X Division champion, former WWE Cruiserweight champion.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like, in a way, kind of makes me like an honorary X Division Cruiserweight, like a Cruiser X Division champion.
Cruiser X champ.
Yeah, so I thought I would take this moment, in front of all of our fans here.
In?
Yeah, to for you to just hand on over these championship belts, and I can display them on my bookshelf in the studio.
All right. You did beat me. You beat me 1, 2, 3. You had me down. My shoulders were bent.
How's that?
I was young. 17. How old were you? You were a grown man.
Grown man.
You were a grown man. Beating up on a 17-year-old.
My fault.
Yeah.
I apologize.
Do you really think I should give you this championship?
100%. I thank you. Look at the man he is. Look at that.
Wait.
Oh, no.
I can give you this one.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I'll take this. And I'll take that as soon as we cut.
No.
Thank you so much, Rich.
Thank you, Josh.
Be right over here. So, as honorary Cruiserweight and X Division champion, it seems only fair that I announce that I would now like to be acknowledged as an honorary Impact World Champion. This is foolproof logic, and it cannot be disputed. So, congratulations to Rich, and more importantly, congratulations to me. I will clear a space for my new belt. When we return, Dr. Tom Pritchard joins us. We'll be right back. From the hit podcast Mind of the Meanie comes the brand new Mind of the Meanie action figures by Cella Toys. A 2-pack featuring former WWE superstar and ECW original, the Blue Meanie, and his Mind of the Meanie co-host Josh Shernoff with removable microphone. These figures feature 3 points of articulation and incredible likenesses. These retro-style figures can be purchased outside the U.S. at cellatoys.net and inside the U.S. at instagram.com/jbtoys1. With only 1,000 made, this collectible 2-pack won't be around for long, so pre-order now. The Mind of the Meanie action figures by Cella Toys. Order now. Welcome back to the show. My guest at this time is one of the founders of the Jacobs Prichard Wrestling Academy and has a new show over at adfreeshows.com called X-Ray with Dr. Tom Pritchard. Please welcome Dr. Tom Pritchard. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, Josh.
So you are a part of Ad Free Shows. It seems everybody, that place is so stacked right now. They have so much incredible talent. And you, who's responsible for training some of the incredible talent in the professional wrestling world, are there now with a new show called X-Ray with Dr. Tom Pritchard, where you break down classic matches and pretty much explain to the fans watching why that was a good decision to do, why that wasn't a good decision, why maybe they chose to do this, could they have done something differently. Can you take us through how the idea behind the show came about?
Yeah, it was one of those things. I believe during the summer quarantine, I was doing this for guys who wanted their matches reviewed and picked apart and what to do. And then I went to visit my brother Bruce up in Stanford. On the first, right around the end of August. Let me take that back. Around the end of August, and he told me that he was talking to Conrad and he had an idea. And I think it's a great idea. It's pretty much just watching matches from back in the 1980s and even the 70s. We could even go back further if we get adventurous with it, and pick it apart and just talk about why these guys did what they did, the spacing, the timing, the thought process behind it, and knowing that everything they're doing is leading towards the finish of the match. Everything they're doing is either leading for this moment of the match or the end. And how they get there is a process. Why they do what they do, what they did right there at that time of the match, is all up to the finished product. So that's how that came about. Conrad thought it was a good idea. Hell, I thought it was a good idea, and that's how we came up with it. So I get to pick some of the matches. Some people have suggested matches. And one thing real quick, professional wrestling is an opinion. So when and create something like this, it's really cool and it's kind of fun, and especially when you're in there and you have top guys creating magic, so to speak.
So, you mentioned, I was going to ask you, how do you pick the specific matches? But so you are one of the people who gets to pick it, but how do you pick it? What is the criteria for you to decide this is a match that I'd like to dissect?
Well, once again, it is a matter of opinion. That's really all professional wrestling is, and my choice and my taste isn't everybody's. But one match we just got done reviewing, for an example, is a match between Cowboy Bill Watts and Mr. Wrestling from 1973. Wow. It's a Georgia studio match. Yeah, I don't think it's anything the kids today would want to watch, but I explain. The premise was different. They're approaching it as it's a contest, and these guys go out and create this illusion. But it was such a different style, a different way of doing things. And the reason I picked this match was to let everybody see how Bill Watts, as a wrestler, performed and did his thing in the ring. And a guy named Mr. Wrestling, who was really Tim Woods, had this persona of this white mask, white boots, white trunks. The reason he wore that was because the angle had him being this great wrestler. Nobody wanted to wrestle. He had to come to the territory and hide his identity to get any matches. And the big angle he did with him was he beat everybody in the territory, and the world champion's coming to town, and he's the top contender, but the world champion won't face a masked man. So he has to unmask before the title, and then it accumulated, or it came up to it. It ended. How's that? It ended with Mr. Wrestling taking off his mask in this territory. You get that close to winning the world championship and then move on. So it was a great angle to come in the territory with back in the 1970s. And Bill Watts was a great mind in the 1980s. So a lot of the guys watching, some of the guys watching today watched back then, like the Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, Jim Cornette, guys like that. Ted DiBiase, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, many of the big stars got their start through Mid-South Wrestling and Bill Watts. So taking you back to seeing his career and what he did and how he laid his matches out was just a thought process for that match.
So, you're talking about a match like that, 1973, and how it's not something that people today might want to watch as much as maybe the product that's on TV today. But if it's an up-and-coming wrestler watching X-Ray with Dr. Tom, what is there still something that they can take from a match like that? What are the types of things and is that something that you try to do to kind of say, okay, you see this, I get this is a different time, but this is how this could be applied today?
Yes. The basics and fundamentals never go out of style, no matter what sport you're talking about. It's still going to be blocking and tackling. You're still trying to hit a home run. You're still going to field the ball. It's the basics. And some of the guys get that. Some of the guys don't. Why is it that all the great fighters know who Muhammad Ali is, Joe Frazier, Joe Jenkins, all these guys who came before them? It's because they're students of the game. I don't think professional wrestling should be any different. The fight game is the fight game, but it is still hand-to-hand combat, and it's still in the ring, and they have their styles, they have their pacing, their footwork, their body language. Everything means something when you step in the ring. So, Bill Watts was a big man, like 6'5", 6'6", and he moved the way a big man should move. Tim Woods was an amateur wrestler turned pro. He had legit amateur credentials, and not all amateurs know send that and step over into the show business world of professional wrestling. It is sports entertainment. But you still have to make it look authentic. You still have to make it look credible. You have a guy like Brock Lesnar, who my God, is the baddest man on the planet, no doubt in my mind, but he also understands the professional wrestling aspect and personality you have to find to do this correctly. So one of the reasons, again, being a big man, a lot of guys don't know how to make it work when they step into a ring, and that's one of the key reasons I want to watch Bill Watts, and also just for people to see where he was at that stage in his career.
So we talk about the different types of matches and everything. You talk about it being an opinion, wrestling just being an opinion. However, your opinion is one that is highly valued by people. And there are some people who have their opinions that they're entitled to. Whatever entertains you, entertains you. Have you, when you see wrestling today, I mean, obviously, you know, you're still teaching. We're going to talk all about that in a minute. But are you able to, after all of these years of being in the business, of training people, of dissecting these matches, are you able to still be a fan? Are you able to watch a match and just enjoy it? Or do you see every little step they take in the ring? You just can't step out of that.
Well, no. Well, I do see every little step in the ring, and I do watch it for that. I do get immersed in it when I have guys who are authentic and believe it themselves and go out and do what we're supposed to do. I necessarily get into the guys who do the old nod and wink and like we're all in on the joke and things like that. I don't appreciate that. I appreciate guys like Roman Reigns or Sheamus, or guys who actually go out and feel this and have an instinct for it. And yes, it's certainly entertainment, but this is sports based. You have to be in shape. You have to have some kind of instinct and feel for what you do when you step out there. And the guys who are real and authentic and believe it when they step in the ring and even prior to that and get psyched up backstage, those are the guys who I feel are the real pros and still make it real and entertaining for not just me, but other fans who enjoy seeing that. And the thing about professional wrestling is we want to create that illusion where you forget about the realities of life and things like that. But when you watch the ring action and you watch a guy like Brock Lesnar and watch how he manhandles people and does it in such a real, authentic fashion, those are the guys who understand it's business, but that's what this business is to create that illusion. So I can still be a fan, certainly, but what I'm not a fan of is the guys who don't go to the gym, who don't look the part, who don't even make an attempt to be authentic or look the part. They're playing a part. And the guys who are the real characters they portray just when they go out on stage or in the ring, turn up that volume to 10 are the ones I really enjoy watching.
Now, is that something that can be taught? Is that something, can you take a guy who's quote unquote, for lack of a better term, playing wrestler, and is there something you can do to make them more realistic?
Well, I don't know if there really is a set way to do that. I do know this in my own experience just in the last 2 years with JPWA. We've had people come to us who've had no confidence, and I just went through this with our last class. Had a guy come to me, just timid, shy, wanted to get in there and didn't want to mess up, didn't want to do the wrong thing. And he had no feel for this whatsoever. And there's so many aspects of this: the personality, the character, the performance, the athleticism. And all he had was passion. And I will take passion over perfection any day of the week. But you also have to instill some confidence and maybe courage as well, and let them know it's okay to go out there. I don't know if you can teach it or just give them an opportunity to take a chance, but I did it with one guy who, I'll say his name, he wanted to call himself Castle Jack. And a small guy, didn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch, and I get it. But then I got him in the ring, and I watched him perform, and he had the passion, and he was feeling. He started talking, and he started having these moves, and he started having this body language. And once he was given the okay, once he was given permission to be himself and go out there and have fun, that's when he found he could get in this lane right here, and he knew enough to get from A to C without screwing up, because he's never going to be a technical wizard by any stretch of imagination. But when you have passion and you find your confidence and you find your courage, then you start creating. And once again, I don't know if it's necessarily teaching that, but allowing them to be that, I think, is a better term. So I've seen it with a couple guys, but others just don't know how to get past that point. And we can try all day long, but it's really up to the individual, I think, to find it in themselves and then be allowed and have the opportunity to demonstrate it.
One of the traits that you always hear about of a great wrestler was their ability to feel the crowd when they were out there, as opposed to these are the 40 spots in a row that have been planned. And today, obviously, we're in the middle of this pandemic. Just looking at the WWE, although obviously this has affected everybody, but just looking at them, they have the Thunderdome, they have the people on screens, and there's obviously a delay. No matter how high tech they are, there's going to be a bit of a delay, which is tough. I guess my two questions are: what type of advice would you give to somebody if they came to you and said, Dr. Tom, I got to go out and I got to go do a 30-minute match in front of nobody? And then on the other side of it, how do you think you would have fared in your career? Could you imagine going out and performing, and not just performing little matches, because there are plenty of people in this wrestling business who have performed in front of one or two people in a crowd somewhere. Yeah. But performing at, this year, WrestleMania, you talked about Brock Lesnar before, Brock and Drew, what could have been, would have looked nothing the same in front of 80,000 people. What advice would you give to somebody, and how do you think you would have fared?
Well, the first thing I would ask them is, what would you do if there was nobody out there? You have to think, shoot, work. What would you really do if there's nobody out there for your world championship match or universal title match? Would you step out on the stage and look around at all the people that aren't there? No, you would be focused. You would do what you would do at shoot for real. What if it's really happening and it's really going on? What would you do? You would be excited still. It's a match. You're going for all the gold. You're going out there to win. You have to believe this in your heart, and then it'll come through with your feelings and emotions. Think, shoot, work. No, there's nobody out there. And I think a couple of guys even said to someone, man, I know what it's like to work in front of 20 people. I can do it. And you have to feel that. And so the pros understand that. You don't go out. That's the issue that we were just talking about, playing a part as opposed to being that part. Being Roman Reigns' cousin is a tough spot to be in. Jimmy Uso felt that. He knew it. And those guys are real in the sense they're really family. There really was rivalries. There really is competition. They love each other, yes, but every family who's in the same business has that rivalry. So yeah, it's tough going out there with no people. I felt for Drew and I felt for Brock, especially Drew, because I knew him, and here's his big moment, and golly, man, but everybody's in the same boat. You have to know how to adjust. You have to know how to adapt. You have to know how to go out there and feel it and be that guy in front of nobody but TV screens. So my advice would be, what would you do if you were actually in a situation where you have a big prize on the line, something huge that you worked your whole life for? How would you react? It's not acting, it's reacting. So now we're in this pandemic. Now we have no live crowds to play to. React to it. How would your feelings be? Everybody's feeling the same way. They want to watch you, and they want to see your reactions, and they want to feel it with you. They want to empathize, but you have to empathize back. You got to feel how these people are watching you, and you have to remember how you were as a fan, because I believe the best pros, first of all, get in this were fans to begin with, and they understood the feeling they got when they watched their favorite guy in there. So now you want to be the fans' favorite guy or the world champion, and think about the same things, and think about what you were thinking about as a kid, going, man, if I stood on that stage, I'd be standing on the top rope doing this, or whatever it may be. And the people will feel it. If it's real, you'll feel it. If it looks good, you'll see it. If it sounds good, you'll hear it. If it's marketed right, you'll buy it. But if it's real, they will feel it, and that's the truth in everything.
You think if you were wrestling in front of, I guess, nobody, have you wrestled in front of pretty much nobody in your career?
Oh, we've wrestled in front of some horrible crowds in Alabama and in the later days of the territory. It was pretty bad. But I don't know. I often say this, that I don't where I would fit in today's climate, that's for sure, because the guys I watched were from the 60s and the 70s, and they were the kind of guys, that back then it was do or die, and they were going to defend the business regardless, and that was that determination and that closed society where they didn't let anybody in. You had to work your way in. You had to know somebody who knew the mother of a friend of a guy who used to work and paint the guy's house, who knew a wrestler 30 years ago. Yeah, and you had to connect the dots. These days, there really are wrestling schools on almost every corner, and it's harder but easier at the same time to get in. We didn't have cable back then. We didn't have the internet. Anybody can be a star. You can have a show on YouTube. You can have a show on Patreon. You can have YouTube or Instagram. But back when I was coming up, the guys were something special. They were larger than life, and they never broke character. If you saw them out in public, they went back to their persona that you saw at the arena. These guys play a part on TV, and then when you see them out, they're just right there. There's nothing special. I remember hearing someone tell me one time, don't dress like the people in the crowd, because pretty soon you'll be back in the crowd. They want to see special. People want to see stars. They don't want to pay to see their next door neighbor. So that's why I tell my guys too, wear a ring jacket to the ring. Don't wear a t-shirt. Don't wear something anybody can wear. Find something different. Make yourself special. And wrestling in front of nobody, learn how to adapt, but don't lose that specialness. Don't lose your uniqueness. You don't want to be part of the crowd. You're in front. You're the guy they want to come see. And if they talk to you all the time and see you all the time, familiarity breeds contempt. And then they figure out you're like them. I'm not saying be a jerk by any stretch of the imagination. Be nice, be civil, be cordial. Be that guy that you would want to be, that you would want to meet when you were growing up. Not the jerk that people talk. Meeting your heroes and he turns out to be a jerk. Don't do that, but don't be common. Don't be like the rest of the fans.
So you talked about wrestling schools on every corner. So before we go, one thing I want to talk about is, of course, the Jacobs Pritchard Wrestling Academy. What led you to decide to open a wrestling school with Glenn Jacobs? And just tell us a little bit about the school. Obviously, one of the things when I was looking at the website was talking about the benefits of not being in town and being able to come from elsewhere and be able to focus. I thought that was really interesting because I remember when I wrestled down in OVW, and that was something to move from Philadelphia to Louisville was, it was a change, but I had no distractions. I had nothing. I could just live and breathe just what I was down there doing. Can you tell us a little bit about the school and give some people information if they're interested?
Well, yeah, Glenn and I were talking at lunch one time, right before, as the campaign was going on, or before the during the campaign, and he said, "Look, I mentioned I was doing a seminar." And he said, "We ought to open up a school." I said, "Oh, no, it's wrestling school. I tried it one time in Knoxville, and it just OVW's a unique place himself. You were on Shepherdsville Road.
Yeah,
you're in the big one.
Yeah.
Okay, because real quick, Denny Davis had one in Jeffersonville, across the bridge in Indiana, and it was nothing but a beat up, broken down warehouse. It was cold in the winter, hot in the summertime. It was dirty, filthy, broken windows, horrible. Last house on Dead End Street. But it was the best atmosphere in the world if you wanted to learn professional wrestling. You found out real quick who wanted it and who didn't. And I tried to do it before here in Knoxville. It just didn't work. And the next day I thought about it. And I said, that might be a great idea if we can find a place. And we have to do it different than other people. A lot of wrestling schools will advertise Glenn Jacobs and Tom Pritchard. And you get John Havishad training. Well, we said, no, we can't do that. We need me to be there, and that's going to have to be a commitment on my part. So I'm going to be there 5 nights a week, and we train from 6 to 10, the beginners class, Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday we do 6 to 8. Thursdays, Fridays are 6 to 10. And we thought about it, and that was the ideal thing for us to do. Our deal is this: we're going 12 weeks, and we understand 12 weeks you're not going to be a superstar. 12 weeks isn't even really scratching the surface. But we're going to give you an introduction, 12 weeks to what professional wrestling basically is. This is the fundamentals and basics, the bumps, the rolls, the holds, the minimum. And then along the way, we're going to talk about psychology. We're going to watch some of the matches that I will review. And one of the classic ones I watched, Harley Race and Terry Funk, goes 40 minutes and nothing but basics. Back in those days, in 1977, the World Championship match, and all they're doing is telling story, pacing, the lengths apart, the footwork. Everything they do meant something. They didn't look at the crowd one time. They looked at each other, and the crowd was into it because these guys were showing this was a world championship match. This means something, and they put everything into it. They're hitting each other. It's not stiff. They were solid. And the difference between stiff and solid is stiff is in unsafe places. Solid, you can hit somebody in safe places. I demonstrate and show and talk about that. So I haven't done one class the same. This is our 7th class. We just graduated last week. Or Friday night, I guess. I can't even remember what the date is. But we do this in 12-week sessions, and we take a week off and do 12 weeks again. So I thought about it and figured I'm going to be the guy, especially right off the bat, training everybody and be there every night. And that's the deal. All wrestling schools are different. You know, you have your way, I have my way, but the right way and the only way does not exist. We have our opinions. We have a way of doing things. I have my style of coaching. Do I yell? Yeah. Do I teach? Yes. Do you learn? It's to you. So I think we have a really good deals over off Hardin Valley in Knoxville, Tennessee. Our website is jpwrestlingacademy.com if anyone's interested. We're on Facebook, on Twitter, and the internet. So all I can tell you is we've had one lady, Emily Ann Zulis, with NXT. We've had others be extras on Raw and SmackDown. 2 weeks in a row when they were in this area, we've had people go out for AEW. All over the country, they're getting, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hit in March, and we got shut down. And everybody's going through the changes. So it's not just us, it's everybody just trying to do the best they can, and that's what we're doing too. Our next class actually starts in 2021, January 4th. So we're taking applications now. If anyone's interested, just go to the website, jpwrestlingacademy.com. And I think everybody's looking for a better year in 2021. We sure are.
That's for sure. And I wish you nothing but continued success with your school and with the new show. The show is called X-Ray with Dr. Tom Pritchard. It's over at adfreeshows.com. It is a great watch for a fan, and it is priceless for a wrestler to watch that. So thank you again so much for being here, Dr. Tom Pritchard.
Thank you, Josh.
From the hit podcast Mind of the Meanie comes the brand new Mind of the Meanie action figures by Cella Toys. A 2-pack featuring former WWE superstar and ECW original, the Blue Meanie, and his Mind of the Meanie co-host Josh Shernoff with removable microphone. These figures feature 3 points of articulation and incredible likenesses. These retro-style figures can be purchased outside the U.S. at cellatoys.net and inside the U.S. at instagram.com/jbtoys1. With only 1,000 made, this collectible 2-pack won't be around for long, so pre-order now. The Mind of the Meanie action figures by Cella Toys. Order now. That's our show. Make sure to follow us on social media at So Says Shernoff and at Shernoff Show. Follow us on YouTube at youtube.com/So Says Shernoff and check out our merch over at prowrestlingtees.com/So Says Shernoff. Listen, 2 years ago, I sat in this little home office and put together a fun little show. 1 month later, I was in a fancy studio. A year and a few months and a worldwide pandemic later, I was right back here in this home office. But it's time to say goodbye to this place. I've outgrown it here. I need a place to properly display all the championships and awards I've given myself. So starting next month, I will be in a new place, a more proper studio, and I will be bringing you the second annual Shernie Awards. Until then, I am thankful for each and every one of you who have joined me on this journey. This has been So Says Shernoff, because that is what Shernoff had to say. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.